Hello, welcome back. So, I don't know how this one's gonna work. I have a lot to say. It's gonna be my analysis of the Renee Good shooting 2 weeks ago in Minneapolis. I got a lot to say, but I want to avoid making it sound like I'm doing a court statement. I could spend time making my outline and everything. I don't want it to come across as robotic. So I just have to try to go with it and try to tie all these things together and recreate it. I got a lot to say about this whole thing. First of all, I'll start out by offering my condolences to her family. Renee Good tragically was shot by an immigration officer. My condolences to her and her family. Let me switch to this video and show you what we're going to talk about. This is the angle I really want to highlight. There are different angles of this. There's more video that came out. This is the first one I saw. And when I first saw this, I saw it very quickly that day. And I thought that the guy that was on the side of her car was the one who fired the shots. And it looked like, my first impression was they look out, they get out of the car, the guy comes out, he's aggressive, he's ready to kill, quick trigger as soon as the car started moving. So to me, there was like no debate about that. And then I heard later all of the controversy and all of the discussion, and I watched it again, and my reaction was like, ooh, that's a tough one. That's one of those that's not that simple. I don't think anything about this is simple and cut and dry. So let me just play this right now. See what I saw. First, we'll play without sound. So you see this guy coming up to her car, and I thought he was the one that shot her, but no, there's somebody else in front of the car. Of course, this is the officer, Jonathan Ross, and he's the one that shoots her. There you go. It happens that quickly. So it's This Week in Tyranny. This is another example of disappearance of freedom and morality in the United States of America, right? So I'm going to offer some unique perspectives on that. First of all, first thing I want to say is that this incident should be viewed as road rage. Road rage is the context here. This is road rage. When someone cuts you off in traffic and slams on the brakes and is talking at you and gesturing at you, like most of us find a way to just keep the car moving. And just, you might give them a gesture, you might want to just cool things down and move on with your life. Some people, they get out of the car, right? They get out of the car, they snap. They decide that person offended them, and that person needs to be set straight. They're going to give them a piece of their mind, right? Whether it's verbally or physically. So that person gets out of the car to try to rewrite that narrative and somehow correct that perceived wrong that happened to them. That's road rage. And that's when people get killed. Because they get out the car, they take a weapon with them, or they start using their hands. They get out the car and they use those weapons. It's quite the phenomenon, actually, how deadly road rage is. Like, people get into fights all the time. They fight on foot, they get drunk outside of bars, like personal issues, real personal issues. And sometimes it's deadly, but there's something about being in that car and trying to get through. I'm going to just run this back and so you can get that context. These are the two guys in the pickup truck. They're trying to get through. They cannot get through because they're getting blocked. So they get out, and you see the one guy on the right, he's calm. He's more calm how he's going about this, right? The guy on the left is lit. He's hot. This is a road rage type of response. So already with road rage, your threshold for agitation is so small and the escalation is so fast that you do get a high frequency of deadly force encounters, and that's what happened here. I mean, this is first traffic obstruction by the woman, Renee, and then road rage. He's coming up to the car. He reaches for the door handle very aggressively, right? So the guy gets out of the car. To forcibly remove her from the vehicle. When at the time this was happening, she was giving conflicting orders, right? She was being told to leave at first. This is what usually happens when the community activists block the road to try to make the immigration officer's job harder. They tell him to leave at first, right? And until that, it gets past that point. So that's what happened here. But I don't want to play too many of these. I really only got two set up, but this, I guess, could give you more context, right? That's fine, dude. I'm not. See, it's calm, right? This is not a really, this is only road rage by one party, right? But this officer, that's the person recording this, is the one who actually shot her. So he's, getting her plate, getting her face, because she's about to be charged with a crime, with obstruction, or federal obstruction, whatever it is. And this whole time, they're basically telling her to go ahead and get out of there, and they're gonna, I guess, deal with her later or something like that. But at some point, one of these guys decides that it's going to go different.
Show your face. I'm not mad. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later.
He would only record the plate if that was the nature of it, right? He's going around to get more information, and then this guy decided differently, and he put his partner in danger, essentially, right? So yeah, it's tough to play it and try to tell you at the same time. So I don't like doing it now. Okay. He basically says, "I've had enough of this." He reaches for the door, and that's the crime that happens. This is my point here. It's the timing. In that point, not the guy who shot her, but the guy who reached for the door, he decided to make an arrest. And he did it at a time where he had another officer in front of the hood. She was getting conflicting orders. It got her killed, and it got his partner hit by a car, or very close to being hit by a car. It's one of the contentious points. I could just show you right here. Like, did he actually, he's behind him, he's obstructed by the guy who reached for the handle. Did he actually get hit or not? It looks like he did, but he may not have. Yes, he was in front of the hood, but she was turning the car. So there's a whole, it's contentious. All of this is contentious, but to me, what's cut and dry is that this guy choosing that time and that manner to strong arm her and to tough guy her, that's what led to this whole thing. And being hit by the car is one thing that happened to him, but that guy, he will definitely be hit with the fallout that comes with being a national scandal police shooter. That's life-changing for guys like that, He may not spend time in jail, but his life is definitely going to be a lot different than it was the day before this. And it's all because of that decision by that guy to reach for that door. So I'm going to come back to this. But this whole thing is like a profound metaphor for the violence in society to me. The officer that fired the shots, he's got a car coming towards him. There's enough there for him to panic and shoot. I think a lot of us that were in that position would panic and shoot. And I will say panic. I know that's not a justification, but just putting myself in his shoes. He as she drives by him, he's off to the side, but initially he was not off to the side. If he would have just stood there, maybe she would have turned the car, but you don't know 100% that she would have. So he was in front of that hood of the car. So there's enough there to me to say, okay, I can't say that's cut and dry, like he went and just decided that he was going to kill her. It's not cut and dry. It's reasonable, it's justifiable that he would say that he was fearing for his life. The woman that drives away is the same thing. She's totally justified in fearing for her life, because you got people with guns yelling at you to leave, right? So, and then one of them aggressively goes for the door and puts hands on her. There's enough there to panic and just put the car and drive. You talk about being in a bad position. She didn't. It's completely reasonable that she didn't even see that guy in front of her. She's looking at him walking towards her and reaching for the handle. So, she's justified as well. So the key here to me, the true cause of violence, is that hand reaching for that door right here. The hidden hand, so to speak. And this is what happens, like, culturally in life, historically. This is what happens. This is how freedom is going to be lost, and why morality in the world continues to deteriorate. Because you get oppositions created and competing factions that can be weaponized against each other to get a predetermined result. Tell me any war that's going on, in the world today. And you take a look at the guy, the boots on the ground, the guy, he has his justifications for being there. It's not him that created the conflict. It's not him that ultimately started the war. It is him. He has to take responsibility for the actions he's taking right there. And everybody there has to take responsibility for what they did, sure. But when a shot is fired in one direction, it's like a domino effect. It's a chain reaction that the shot's going to be fired back. And what you get is an endless civil war of violence, which is what has happened throughout history. And as wonderful as it has been to live in this post-enlightenment period where we have limited government, almost libertarian government, and more freedom than there has ever been in the entire world, in the last few hundred years or so, it's going away because we're getting caught back into that division, playing two sides. So there's a hidden hand causing the world to deteriorate this way. And the hidden hand is government. It's not a mayor, it's not a president, but the people who have maintained the power of former kings, the emperors, the merchants, the bankers, all of these people, the witch doctors, the cardinals, historically, all sorts of people who have always manipulated people from behind the scenes. That's the third party here. And this is what nobody's talking about that guy. They're mostly talking about her, the driver, and the victim, and this guy, the shooter. And that's the debate. Where it's the hidden hand that's causing the whole thing. Yes, there is objective fault for the officer, Jonathan Ross, who shot her. He put herself in front of her car. He fired the shots that killed her. Yes. Renee Good, she hit the accelerator with a human being in front of her. She did that. I mean, she put the quarter in the jukebox, as John Correa from Active Self-Protection likes to say. And I don't mean, obviously it's sensitive, but I'm not going to hold my words back. Like, this is what it is. If you put the quarter in the jukebox, a certain song is going to play. They're not blameless. Neither party is blameless in this. Each one of them had the free will to make this a different outcome. But the bottom line is there would be no shooting if not for that guy reaching for that door in the way that he did it. Now, the next point that I want to get into is just what fascinates me is that the situation is close enough to be paradoxically controversial. I really do think it's incredible. It's like in the NFL football games, you have a 100-yard field and all this space, and it amazes me that all these games, they often come down to one single play at the end of the game that you can magnify it and play the replay, and it comes down to an inch. Did he keep his foot in bounds? And you get such split second breaking it down and discussing the discussions, like all the aspects of the rules. There's an aspect of that here that it's really not that simple to me. One shot went through the... To me, usually a shooting where a cop is on foot and he shoots the driver as he's driving away, to me, it's a very simple... that I would use as a standard for, like, guilt. A 99% standard of guilt is, like, did the shot go through the windshield, the front, or did it come through the side or back? If it comes through the windshield, then I would say 99% of the time it's justified. If it comes through the side, then it's not justified because clearly you didn't have to. It wasn't going to hit you, right? Was it coming at you or not? In this case, the first shot does go through the windshield and the next two come from the side because he was in the front and he moved out. He was in the corner. And of course, people make this a contentious point. Like, why did he shoot the second and third time? Well, then you get into what I kind of summarize at the end is you're breaking things down in super slow-mo, but in real life, that decision to shoot, I mean, cops don't just shoot once. I mean, he's trying to end the threat. So once the impulse in his brain is telling him to shoot, I mean, he's not just shooting once. I wouldn't shoot just once. I'm going to empty the clip, so to speak. And I mean, that's me. I'm not a trained professional, but, so I think I just want to demonstrate to you that that everyone has a point here, but it's like it's going to be an endless debate, I think. There's an aspect of that here. Was she trying to turn his wheels away from him? She was, but it still looks like she hit him with the car. Did she hit him with the car or not? Or did he just jump away at the right time? The White House, they acted like this guy was hit by a train and it's a miracle he survived. They're blatantly lying about this when the video shows him walking off in one piece, So there's this slow-mo microscopic scrutiny, You could slow something down and replay it and say, that was wrong, that was a bad decision, but completely forgetting how quickly shit happens in real life. Like, it's real life, man. The freeze response, the adrenaline response, the cognitive lag, so it's called the delay that creates. So I almost have to step back and just marvel at everything involved in this incident, down to the shooting being on 33rd Street, down to the coordinates that it happened. It's the 44th latitude north and the 93rd longitude west, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and being the 13th letter of the alphabet, right? So it's 441313. The last name of the shooter being Ross, which means red. The last name of the victim is Good. The word good is the word we use for righteousness and moral principle. So many interesting things, the compelling things. It's almost like breaking down a book and what the author intended with this and that. I wouldn't highlight any pre-planning of this event occurring specifically, and I know people do that. I know there are people out there that said, look, 33, and that this is another divide and conquer event, and it was all. I wouldn't highlight that. I wouldn't highlight any of that. I would just highlight that when the hearts and minds of a whole planet or nation are locked in, focused on a specific idea or event, you basically wind them up like rock'em sock'em robots and go at each other, and the narratives are going to write themselves. The universe is going to leave Easter eggs all by itself. You can go on this Easter egg hunt, and look at this over here, look at this interesting thing over here. That officer, he in June was in an incident where he got dragged by a car, right? The one who shot, and all these interesting aspects to it that you could endlessly talk about. I wanted to mention that as well. Another thing I wanted to mention is to just consider what parameters are we using for our analysis. Like, are we looking at this from the perspective of he's like a cop, right? A normal police stop. Because if this is like a normal police stop, I think you could definitely say that this shooting was at least justified in that moment. But the other perspective of this is these aren't even cops. So you got to treat these people like they're violent criminals and carjackers. And there's a point to that. There's a point to that perspective. That, like, what are they really doing there in the first place? It's federal enforcement of civilian nonviolent crime. So, so it's not. Is it really self-defense then? Should they be treated like cops? Because the law does treat them the same as law enforcement officials. They're officials, right? But of course, the protesters, the people who are upset, and I count myself as one of them. I'm one of the people that are upset by this. I'm absolutely horrified by a federal law enforcement agent shooting someone who is unarmed, who clearly is not a killer. They did not go out there to intend to hurt someone. So I'm on that side. I've been very open about being anti-police in general. But, I don't try to play the sovereign citizen game. I know that the federal government is a fiction, and no person has the right to control me. But I also know that your average cop doesn't know that. So my goal is to play the long game until we can reach people's minds and change these dynamics, right? So the reason I mention that is just kind of cut to the chase and make things clear, like what this was over here. These people that are blowing the whistles and blocking ICE, yes, they are breaking U.S. law. It's borderline, it's a gray area, but they're doing that. I also think they're doing the right thing, because masked up military uniforms and unmarked cars acting shady and belligerent right this is not right. I mean, this is just not right. This is not regular law enforcement, the way he's coming at her like this. This is the kind of shit you see in Mexico. Down to the pickup truck, down to the black mask, down to the paramilitary way of functioning. Cartels acting like soldiers. That's the kind of shit you see in Mexico. Ironically, that's exactly the kind of shit those Mexican cartels are doing. So, the beginning of this sequence of events of this killing was the obstruction of traffic. That was kind of the spark. And I don't think we should pretend that it wasn't an intentional act of subversion to interfere with ICE actions. Like, she was obstructing them. She was trying to block them. She was in a contentious dynamic with them. I also don't think that makes her, asking for her own death. That doesn't mean this was justified. This is the kind of same stuff we did, Polish people, in Nazi occupation in Poland. Sabotage, subversion. This is what people did when, when you're not gonna pick up the guns and shoot someone that you ultimately see as doing tyranny in the streets. Then this is how you do it, and I do support it. I think women should do it this way, especially. Because nobody is better at sabotage and provocation than a woman. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel about it. And they don't just do that, right? They don't just agitate. They don't just provoke. They provide resources and care for the immigrants, for the families. I respect these people. I've said it before. And most immigrants are good people. They're good, moral people. They just are. Relative to the rest of society, they are. They're good people. So you could say in court that, and they do try to say this, like all she was doing was observing activities in the public space. She wasn't obstructing. I don't agree with that approach. I think rhetorically, like speaking about it rhetorically, I think the left-wingers should be honest about these activities and claim the moral high ground. Because you have the right to do this. I think you have the right to do things like this, even though they are breaking U.S. law. It's like no one wants to touch moral righteousness. Everybody is just wants to have the law on their side. Fuck the U.S. law. It's about moral righteousness first. Natural law is before U.S. law. It is the underpinning of U.S. law. Refer back to moral righteousness, to natural law. That's objective and unchangeable and applies to any case. And there are no technicalities. Claim the moral high ground when it's right there. Yes, this federal activity that they're doing in enforcing this in the streets is wrong. Yes, it is lawful. It's lawful. They're doing the right thing. They had the right to stop them under the U.S. law. They had the right to even remove her from the car. No one broke any laws here. You're not going to get the cops convicted over this. They didn't commit any crimes under U.S. law. But they did something wrong. Therefore, the law that we're using is wrong. The end. That's the real cause of this incident, is the enforcement of a law that is wrong. That's the problem. So I'm just trying to identify initiation here. Like, first you have your obstruction. That would be the initial crime in a normal context, right? Of course, as with complex things, there's a gray area. Like, she was obstructing, but obstructing for a cause that is justified, right? In her, right? According to her and me. So there's that. But you have to say, as far as initiation, the man that walks up and yanks her door handle like this and puts his hand inside of her car, that is the initiator. The guy who fired the shots is justified. Look where he is. At this point, the car is moving. He doesn't know where that car is going to go. He doesn't need to look at the wheels in that moment. This is a split-second decision. This is already, like, he's justified in doing that. She's justified to run. She's justified to run because she was just being told to move. She's following their orders. Being placed in a completely hectic, agitated, difficult situation with people surrounding her at this point. You got one guy here, one guy here, one guy in front. She's surrounded. She's justified to run here. And her life is gone. His is changed forever. And the guy that initiated it all is getting very little attention even. This is the guy who initiated a physical fight while his fellow officer is in front of the car. That's when he chooses to initiate it. No awareness of where he is. Very irresponsible and childish what he did. This is what caused his partner to get hit or close to get hit. It caused an entire cascade of events. It caused a chain of events that is going to be one of the steps into the basement of the collapse of America, which is a microcosm of the collapse of humanity in general, all because of that guy. He acted like an emotional child because emotion is being weaponized against him. And I get it. The insults, the honking, the whistling, the obstructing, recording, getting in your face. I would not be able to deal with it either. That's why I don't do it. I choose a livelihood where I'm respected in what I do. That's it. Subversion and demoralization. The same has been done to the police and military in general. Like, they get pressure from above and pressure from below because them having everything recorded on body cam, which I support. But at the same time, if they ever did anything, they put a hand on somebody, they got to fill out all this paperwork. They're afraid to step in. When they do need to step in, there's situations where, like, they need to act now. Like, there's a situation where there's a guy starting a chainsaw in an old folks home, and the cop hesitates and he doesn't know what to do. Like, this is the position that police are put in. And I get it. Like, there's demoralization going on from both sides. I'm not saying it's easy to be somebody who's trying to be a law enforcement officer. I think that the things that people are asking from them are really high standards at this point. So as dirty as these tactics are, pushing the line and then stepping over the line and saying, "You can't touch me, I'm not doing nothing," right? I support doing it. It's either that or armed rebellion, right? If they're taking people away in the streets, and like that's the choice, right? It's either you do this, either you armed rebellion, or you do what I do, which is trying to change minds rhetorically, At the end of the day, I support these women or men or whatever they are, right? Being Karens to these people. Yes, that's what it is. Let's be honest about it. That's not all that they do, right? They warn the immigrants, they point them to resources, they take care of their families. But I support even the taunting and the nagging, because it exposes that these federal agencies like ICE and DHS, they're not acting in a morally upstanding manner. They're not really doing the right things. Because if they were, then the taunting and nagging wouldn't work. Imagine if they did this to a regular cop, like a 30-year cop that was patrolling the same neighborhood. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work for them to point the phone in front of them and taunt them and say, "You're changing your license plates. You better get some lunch, big boy." That's what they say to them. That does happen to cops. Any cop put in this position, which does happen. Police in the past 10 years are more taunted and disrespected to their face, for sure. But any one of those cops will be able to say, "Oh, you think you know how to deal with violent people? You're going to lecture me with all the domestic calls, all of the car accidents that I've been a part of. I've been on these streets for 10 or 20 years, 30 years. I know the people. I live in the area just like you. Everything I do while I'm working is scrutinized on body cam. I could defend every action I take. Are you recorded at your job of every minute of every day? You tell the truth every minute of every day." Shit like that. They could say that. And policing violence has never been the issue. It's never been the hot political debate. Like, yes, I'm anti-police for a reason that I'm going to, I'm going to articulate that here for everybody that's not familiar with where I stand on things. But regular cops have never been the issue. Like, the issue with this is these guys. See, policing is politics is the art of preventing simple solutions to simple problems. There are simple solutions to crime in the large scheme of things, and it could be implemented. But the government does not allow them to be implemented because of the hidden hand behind government. It actually hamstrings government, anybody who tries to get simple solutions in place. And instead, to the simple problem that is a bunch of immigrants coming across the border and committing crimes, and then they're not part of the system like regular citizens, and they get care. They weigh down the system. They get the welfare. They get all of these, and they don't get held responsible. They don't pay these taxes. That the very simple problem, which you get, modern mass immigration. The simple solution is just stop the handouts. Stop the handouts and just follow regular U.S. laws like with any other citizen. You don't have to round them up. You don't have to go into the streets and be showy like this. Simple solutions to simple problems, but they don't do it because it's political. The biggest tool of politics today is polarization, which is like a cancerous process that attaches weight and baggage to ideas. And it's no longer a simple debate where there's a simple answer. There are identities created and camps, and it makes the conversation about something else. The issue with this is government enforcement on civilians, on the civilian population, suspected of nonviolent crime. That's the issue. Roundups, sweeping measures, that's the issue. But we're talking about government enforcement in the streets on civilians, not with the probable cause of a crime being committed in that way, not the way the cops usually do it. They turn on your sirens. This is another thing. Like, okay, she did that, so turn on your sirens and pull her over there. Pull her over then. They don't do it. I don't know, do they not have sirens? Or maybe they don't want to do the paperwork because they're not regular cops. And all she does is just, these people call their bluff. If you're a real cop, pull her over then. Turn on your sirens. I'm sure she would have been happy to to get pulled over. Or do you think it would have been a high-speed chase? I doubt it. So I can't stress it enough. The issue with this is not anything deeper or political. It's just you got federal troops going over into the streets, and it's not a directed. So even if it was targeted, and you got somebody that's suspected of a crime, this is nonviolent crime. If he hasn't done an assault, a carjacking, a robbery, any of this stuff like this, if it's a nonviolent crime, then you don't get to do something like this. You can still lock him up, but just do it like a real cop. Don't have raids. This is the thing. Violent crime, nobody's out here defending violent criminals. Who's out here defending violent criminals? Nobody. Nobody cares if the cops go and shoot them. Nobody's gonna... Do you know what I'm saying, man? So, I'm going to start wrapping this up now and go back to another metaphor. And the other metaphor for this is just how the trauma cycle works. How tragedies are perpetuated and they occur over and over again. And the roles change, but the crimes, the traumas, the abuses, they continue. And I'm here not to punish anybody, not to get any kind of revenge for tyranny or anything like that. It's just to end the trauma cycle. I'm out here for the good, so to speak, right? So the way this happens is every trauma cycle starts with one, you get the act of senseless ignorance. Something just happens that you didn't, it's not your fault, but something just freaking happens to you. And in this case, depending on who we're looking at it, the perspective, right? So you get this car being thrown into drive. Like that's the first thing that happens. For the guy in front, that's the act of senseless ignorance coming at him, right? And he's responding to something that, he didn't hurt anyone. He didn't really do anything. He's just standing in front of the car. All of a sudden, there's a car coming towards him. But I'd rather look at it from the perspective of her, because as I've said, the act of initiation, the real act of senseless ignorance, was that guy grabbing at the door handle. That's the wrong that happens to her. The first and foremost, the biggest crime that occurred here to me. And then once that trauma starts, of course, you're the victim of some kind of violence. And step two is there's the opportunity to break the cycle. Are you going to break the cycle, or are you going to pass the trauma down the line and make it go full circle again? Okay, it's like a triangle. So this is the second. This is the one where it's all going to come together. This is the middle. And the way you could have broken the cycle and not gotten killed here is get dragged out the car and make your speech as you get recorded and arrested. Yes, this guy's being aggressive. Yes, you're scared. But, at this point, you make them, instead of dealing with those people, actually obstruct them and make them deal with you. And I'm sure if Renee Good had a chance to do it over again, that's what she would have done. It's very unfortunate. But I just want us to think about that. If you're in a situation like this, you should get dragged out that car. Like, don't give him a reason to shoot you. Don't ever hit that accelerator in that sense. Don't run. Best case scenario, you get beat up. You could win a lawsuit and play the long game, get $1 million from the police department. Direct that money away from their causes into your causes. Like, if you're in the moral right and you're standing in the moral right, then defend your position. Do it. Say, I'm here. And I guess I have to say this in general. If this happens to me, and me just kind of processing things, right? Processing things and putting myself in this situation, what I wish that I would do, or someone in my position would do, was is to not throw the wrongdoing over onto a third party. The wrongdoing is done by that person reaching for the door handle. The response, the forceful response, the self-defense response, the violent response, if you want to call it, should happen right back at him. It should springboard right to him. Not putting someone else in danger. That guy that broke that interaction from becoming contentious to becoming physically combative. He initiated that. He should get any kind of a reaction. So, if there is somebody reaching for your door who's not doing it lawfully, I think you should have a gun loaded right by your side just for something like this. And if I'm in this position, I'm definitely not going to run over a third party. Okay, and if you can't have a gun, have a knife. Knives are, they're. It's terrible. They can do a lot of damage, and it's terrible that we have to, we have to concern ourselves with things like this. Except instead of making music, raising children, playing sports, watching sports, all these cool things, making great meals. Instead of that, we got to talk about violence and talk about how you will effectively be able to remove a threat and end somebody's life. Very unfortunate. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But I'm definitely not going to be one of these sacrificial lambs like that. And I'd hate to be that step in the trauma cycle that passes over the suffering to somebody else. On some level, it's unavoidable, right? Because if somebody's doing something wrong to you and you're totally justified to self-defense, to kill them, you're still throwing suffering on their family, their loved ones, everybody. There's no way to avoid that. This is why it's so important to pursue moral principles and try to be morally righteous, and don't throw any shit on anybody else's head. Because the third step in the trauma cycle is like back to the first step. It all falls onto somebody's head. And to them, that's the act of senseless ignorance, of senseless violence. Not the thing that happened to you, but the thing that you did to them. And you're back to step one, and that's the officer drawing the gun. So I do offer my condolence to Renee's family and everyone who lost their life at the hands of a law enforcement officer. But also to the cops that got killed at the traffic stops. And I've seen some of those. I've seen a lot of body cams at this point looking into this. And sometimes you see what happens to a cop and you're like, man, that guy he was too innocent. He was innocent. He was an innocent guy. And just because of who they're working for, of what they've done, like those cops get killed, and that happens. And they had a family and everything. Maybe they wrote a couple of parking tickets, which is wrong. Maybe they harassed a couple people, which is wrong. But they may have stopped a lot of bad things from happening as well, and that's not that cut and dry. Nothing about it is cut and dry. But bottom line, did they wrongfully kill this woman? Absolutely. It is wrong because she should not have died that day. Absolutely. But I made this video just to give you the proof of why. Of why. The reasons that, the arguments that other people don't make. Instead, they make all these arguments. Arguments that won't win in court, that are not going to win debates with the other side ideologically. They're not going to inspire new thinking. And I'm just like, oh my God, why don't we go back to the principles, the foundations, And here are the arguments people make. One is, he should have never pulled her over in the first place, which I actually agree with that argument. I talked about the initiation aspect and the moral right aspect of obstructing them, being justified to protest in that way. So I agree that they should have never pulled her over, but why? Why? Like I've said, if your reference point is U.S. law, then you're going to be proven wrong. Because there's a U.S. law code that says that if somebody's committing a crime in the streets, which is even a misdemeanor, obstruction, then an ICE agent can make an arrest of a U.S. citizen, no problem at all. So you'd be proven wrong there. My reason is government enforcement on civilians suspected of nonviolent crime is wrong. That's it. I don't care if it's against the law what they did. This is wrong anyway. And with the additional point that he can't pull her over. He's not behaving like a cop. He's behaving like a gangster. This is gangster-ass behavior. Which leads to the logical conclusion that if it wasn't for the support of government, the government law enforcement structure, this would have just been an attempted carjacking that led to a shooting. This is a... If you just look at this and you forget anything outside of that, if you just view this in a vacuum with no political context, this is a carjacking. This is an attempted carjacking that leads to a shooting by an accomplice. In any other context, you'd be an accomplice. Everyone here is an accomplice to murder. Murder, boom, everyone goes away. That's what would happen if you didn't have support of the government law enforcement structure. What are some other arguments, right? That she was turning her wheels, right? She was turning her wheels away from him. This is the one I want to show. But if you're looking at this, is it on him to see that she's turning her wheels away from him? And if he does nothing, are you sure he's not going to get hit? Because I'm not. I'm not sure, so I wouldn't even make that argument. The other argument is, did he have to shoot her 3 times? You're not going to catch me making that argument because it's a stupid argument. It's split second how many shots are fired. He's not, and even if, like, you can't expect him to think of this in the moment, but once a car starts moving, whether you hit her once or 3 times, you're not going to stop the car. I mean, at this point, you're trying to get out of the way. So he was trigger happy, yeah, but that's not the issue there. Like, that's not the issue in that sense. Also, let me turn the sound back on, because this is the argument I also hear, is that, you know, what he said to her afterwards.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face. I'm not mad at you. That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking guy. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Get out of the car. Get out of the fucking car.
Oh, man, that's a day.
Get out of the car. Oh! Fucking bitch.
I don't know if you heard it. I didn't hear it because I got it on my headphones. But he called her a fucking bitch. He fires a couple shots. Fucking bitch. And that's supposed to be the crux. That's supposed to... You know what happened afterwards? It doesn't matter what he says. It's not the issue. That's not the argument. Or what happened to him 3 months ago. Or whether he's a white supremacist or not. Like, can we... If we really want to prevent these things from happening, then you stick to principles and you stop there. Context is one thing, but just infinite debating, and it's not going to go anywhere. Anyway, I hope I've made a couple of good points. Yeah, I'll end it there. Let me know what you think. Comments are open. I'm going to try to respond to some comments today. Again, I feel for all victims of violence, and we really need to just break the cycle. I mean, I'm the first to act in self-defense, and I'd like to be at the tip of the spear of things like this, because I hate seeing things happen to innocent, defenseless people, and I like to see people get their comeuppance. I do, but as righteous as that may feel, that's not where the real change is. The real change is day to day, week to week. How are you living morally? What your relations are with other people? Are you working towards the upliftment of all, and securing those principles and proliferating those principles that are going away in the world? That's what we try to do here. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.